Okay, I think we better get going so we can, yeah. All right, everyone, I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the October 2nd, 2025 Town of Fishkill Planning Board meeting, and we're calling the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I understand there's a Yankees game out there somewhere. I don't know what that's all about, but... All right, if you'd be kind enough to silence cell phones, and also anyone, including board members speaking into the microphone, please speak clearly and directly into the microphone. Can you all hear me okay out there? Okay. We've got 5 voting members tonight and 1 alternate member present. A couple of regular members, Ravi Ladara and Felix Lopez, couldn't make it tonight. So I would like to appoint alternate member Kevin O'Connell as a voting member for tonight's meeting. And Kevin is sitting right over there. So the board will consist of 6 voting members for tonight's meeting. All right, the first item is a request for an extension of approval. This will be 62 Greenwood Drive, land development permit, board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on September 24, 2025. This is a request for an additional 6-month extension of the resolution of reapproval adopted by the board on May 8, 2024. The board recently granted a 6-month extension at the May 8th meeting, and that's about to expire on November 9th. Welcome, Mr. Roby. Please let us know why you are back for another extension.
Hi, I'm Eric Rogie with Hudson Land Design. The current owners of the property are under contract. I think this week they're going to be closing. The new owners have been filled in on all the information and the transfer of the plans over to them. So they need this time to switch the owners and get a grasp of all of the remaining conditions.
All right. Any questions or comments from board members?
Why 6 months? Why not 3 months?
Good question.
6 months seemed like a good number. Give them a little bit of time to finish all the paperwork and plan the property and make sure they know what they're doing.
That seems like a long time for something that's almost all ready.
We got quite a few conditions still to meet related to bonding and fees and those types of things. And then they need to make sure the house is exactly the same footprint as what was approved.
And this is also a change of ownership, so it has
Yes.
whatever legal things have to be done in order to accomplish that transaction.
Correct.
All right, Dominic, do you have any questions or comments? And do you think a 6-month extension is appropriate?
Yes, I do, sir. I would recommend that the board grant the 6-month extension. And that is the standard length of time for extensions of this type.
Okay. All right, would someone like to make a motion to approve a 6-month extension of the resolution of reapproval for the 62 Greenwood Drive land development permit? That would go to May 9th, 2026.
So moved.
Bob moves it. Is there a second?
Second.
Anthony seconds it. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries by 6-0. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have several new submittals tonight, and we'll start with 95 Jackson Street. This is a 2-lot subdivision. Applicant seeks approval to subdivide a 1.36 acre parcel into 2 lots. Lot 1 consisting of 0.658 acres, and Lot 2 consisting of 0.659 acres. The parcel for this proposal is located at 95 Jackson Street, which is at the corner of Jackson and Rosilia Lane in the RMF5 zoning district. And this will be to refer the application to the town planning board attorney, town engineer, Village of Fishkill Planning Board, and the Rombout Fire District for their review and comment. And the board will also allow informal comments from the public if there is anyone here who would like to do that after discussion of the application. And the applicant has submitted the required application fee and escrow deposit. Thank you for that. So, would the applicant team like to describe the proposal for us?
My name is Charles May. I represent Mr. Donahue, who is the owner of the property. As we all know, the property is located on 95 Jackson Street, which is actually a bit north of the M&T Bank, which is located on Main Street. Rosilia Lane is right parallel to the property. The property is in the RMF5 district, which is a 10-acre district. The owner would like to subdivide the property into 2 lots. One lot would be .658 acres, and the next lot would be .659 acres. The lot 2 actually meets all the requirements for the front yard, rear yard, and side yard setbacks. And lot 1 also meets the requirements for the side rear yard. The lot 1 is actually 37 feet versus the 75 feet, but it is our understanding that the buildings were actually built prior to the zoning of the RMF5, which accommodates all the apartments which are surrounding that particular area. One of the things that Mr. Donahue has and I have spoken about is the fact that there is a sewer, it's my understanding, a sewer and a water line connection, which is located in the village of Fishkill, so therefore we would most likely be making an application to the village for a water and sewer connection. Having said that, I think that that pretty much explains what the project is all about at this particular time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from planning board members?
Right now, the one house does not have water and sewage because it's its own septic and well?
The original house is hooked up to sewer and water. Yes.
Okay, it is. Okay, thank you.
I think in RDM5 zoning, there's a perviosity requirement in the code. Does anybody remember what that was? 45%, 50%? Pervious ground required in the relevant lots?
Well, I mean, if you look at the actually impervious by memory, the impervious covers 30%, which is in the code.
Okay.
And the lot 1 and the lot 2 do not exceed the building or the impervious cover.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, they're somewhere in the world of 12% or 15%. But I remember that the impervious cover maxed out at 30%.
30%, okay.
One thing I was wondering is whether Lot 2 might be able to be accessed from Rosilia Lane instead of from Jackson Street, just because Jackson Street is such a busy thoroughfare. You want to come up, get a little closer to the mic.
Excuse me. I never approached the owners of Rosilia. That's a private road, and I would have to get permission from them to do that.
So is that owned by the apartment development
That's
that's
owned
back
by
there?
the apartments, yes, sir.
Uh-huh.
So it's technically a private road or driveway.
All right, well, that might be something that we could consider, but I know that you already have a curb cut, so to speak, on Jackson
Yes.
Street. Okay. Dominic, do you have any questions at this point? I know this is a new submittal, so it hasn't been referred to.
Not at this
yet.
point, no, sir.
Okay,
Thank you for the opportunity, though.
thanks. And Dennis, anything that you can think
No, I took a
about?
look at the application, it seems pretty straightforward, and there was no glaring things that we think would be showstopper for this project.
All right. All right, well, at this point, I'm going to ask if there is anyone in the audience who would like to make informal comments about this proposal. If so, raise your hand. And I don't see anybody out there. So there would be a public hearing on this at a later point in the process, but again, this is what I guess I would call a minor subdivision, although the town code doesn't have anything called that, but should be a fairly straightforward process to go through. So at this point, is there a motion to accept the application for the proposed 95 Jackson Street 2-lot subdivision and to refer the application to the town planning board attorney, town engineer, Village of Fishkill Planning Board, and the Rombout Fire District for review and comment?
So moved.
Second.
Anthony moves it and Fred seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries 6-0. So thanks for coming. The board will continue discussion with input from our consultants at the November meeting.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much.
And the third and final new submittal is lands of, and I'll pronounce this square, but tell me if I'm pronouncing it properly, and if not, I'll try better. This is for a lot line realignment. And the applicants seek lot line realignment approval to revise the lot line between Lot A, identified as tax map parcel 615405026862, consisting of 0.99 acres, located on Pondview Drive, and Lot B, identified as tax map parcel 615405029847, consisting of 0.93 acres at 53 Pondview Drive in the Beacon Hill zoning district. I'll let you explain it a little bit more in a second. This would result in Lot A consisting of, both lots actually consisting of approximately 0.95 acres, and the application is submitted pursuant to Town of Fishkill Code, Chapter 13246 and 13247, and has already been referred to the town engineer, town planning board attorney, and the town building inspector zoning administrator. And again, the board will allow informal comments from the public after the discussion of this application. So, why don't you give us a little bit more of an overview of the proposal?
Absolutely. Brian Stokosa, Dane Stokosa Engineering. This project
Brian, I'm
goes...
sorry, could you just move? Thank you so much.
Got it back? Sound good. This project started back in 2006. We did a subdivision of this piece, and we created a filed map in 2009 that created Lot A and Lot B. Lot B is the southern lot. It's the lot furthest up the hillside. That house was constructed in 2012, and as part of that, there was it's a side load entry house, and in order to construct the driveway turnaround area, a retaining wall was constructed. And a portion of that retaining wall actually goes over the property line. The applicant owns both pieces. So Lot A, which is below Lot B, remains unbuilded. Well, it's not built. It's vacant. There was some improvements that were done to support the construction of these two lots as part of that 2009 map. So we're just looking tonight to just realign the lots to make sure that we don't have any setback issues with the retaining wall. So what we did is we just formed a new line around that retaining wall with a 20-foot offset because it is considered a structure. So that would be within the setbacks of the new lot line realignment. So basically, we're just kicking the lot line around the retaining wall so that we can just clarify that building discrepancy. That's it.
Okay. I think I misspoke earlier. This is the second of 3 new submittals. So why don't we go to MJ's memo? Dennis, do you want to give us a quick summary of that?
Sure. We did have a pre-application with the meeting on September 5th, and then we also provided a letter dated September 26th. Going through, it's, as Brian had mentioned, it's a pretty straightforward application. Based on the EAF that they provided, this would be a type 2. If the board is in favor of that, that would be the end of the required environmental review. As mentioned, this is the Beacon Hills zoning district. We are going to be creating new lines, so it would require subdivision approval. There are no variances that are required from the creation of the 2 new lots. And then based on the site plan, there's really no physical changes to the site other than the boundary. So that's all the comments that we had for this.
Okay. Any questions from board members?
Nope.
No questions.
And Dominic, do you have any comments in terms of the code requirements for these lot line revisions?
It's meant to be an expedited process, and so given that it's also a type 2 action under seeker, and the application doesn't require a referral to the Zoning Board of Appeals for any variances, the board could authorize that a resolution of approval be prepared for next month's meeting if you're so inclined.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, and I just was going to observe this looks like a pretty straightforward lot line revision. So at this point, if there is anyone in the audience who would like to make informal comments, now would be the time. Raise your hand, please, if there is anyone. And I don't see anyone. So, yeah, let's first do the seeker part of this. Since it is apparently a type 2 action, and this goes to actually section 617.5C16 as a lot line adjustment. Dominic has already concurred with that. So would someone like to make a motion to classify the Squilla lot line realignment as a type 2 action pursuant to seeker?
So moved.
Second.
Bob moves it and Anthony seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then also, I think the board could consider waiving any public hearing for this revised lot line proposal, and since there was no one from that area to talk about it tonight, that seems like an appropriate thing to do. If somebody would like to move that, to
I'll
waive the
move it.
public. That was Fred?
Yes.
And is there a second?
Second.
Anthony seconds it. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries 6-0. And as Dominic mentioned, this is supposed to be an expedited review, and it looks like it is going to be a fairly straightforward lot line realignment. Is there a motion to authorize the planning board attorney to prepare a draft resolution of conditional final approval, probably it would
That would be it, yes.
for the proposed lands of Squilla lot line realignment with the required conditions for the board's review and consideration at the November 13th planning board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Was that Fred moving it?
Yeah.
All right, Bob seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries 6-0. So I think we're all set for the November meeting.
Thank you, guys. See you in November.
Thank you. Okay. And now, the third and final of the new submittals. 400 Westage, Site Development Plan Amendment. The applicant seeks to amend the existing site development plan approval for 400 Westage to construct a 4-story, 24,000 square foot building addition, paved loading area, porte cochere, curbed island, and to realign the main entrance and subsurface stormwater detention at the existing medical facility located at 400 Westage Business Center Drive. The parcel is in the PSC Planned Shopping Center District and consists of 7.62 acres. And this would be to refer the application to the town engineer, town planner, town planning board attorney, Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, and the Rombout Fire District. And again, the board will allow informal comments from the public after the discussion of the application. And the applicant has submitted the required application fee and escrow deposit. Welcome. There seems to be a lot of infill development going on over at the Westage Business Center, so this is one of those. So why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of what's going on?
Great, thank you. My name's Karen Lobruto. I'm a senior planner with Labella Associates. I'm here representing the applicant 400 Westage Associates, represented by Fishkill Hachanjani today. He and his family operate a approximately 73,000 square foot medical office building at 400 Westage Business Center Drive, and they seek to gain site plan approval and a parking waiver to allow for a 4-story, 24,000 square foot addition to the building. To vet out this idea, we've done a parking analysis to better understand the demand and supply relative to the existing uses and for the proposed use. And we have that ready, and we'll submit it if we have not already. I think we did, actually. Yeah. And so today we're seeking acceptance of the application and here to answer any questions that you have initially.
Good, okay. Any questions from planning board members?
I sort of do with parking.
Sorry?
How much parking are we losing when you put up the building?
We're essentially losing something like 15 spaces, but when we look at the parking demand, we're looking at a demand of 292 spaces, and we're proposing 315. We're losing about 10 spaces or so in this area that you can see that's kind of hatched. It will provide a pedestrian drop-off area for Cerebral Palsy Limited, which is the current tenant. They currently use that area for pedestrian drop-off, and it's coned off, so it's not right now being used for parking at all. So we're formalizing that as part of this application.
Well, going along with that, where you're putting the snow, because we're running out of a lot of space over there that was used for snow before.
Mm-hmm. Generally, the snow gets pushed to the edge. You know, we do have this large, sorry, it's kind of hard to make this work here. You know, we do have the 100-foot here set back from the property line. Where there's available space on curbs or in the parking area, we would be doing snow removal and stockpiling it there. It should be indicated on the plan. I can make sure that it is. If it isn't, we can get more information to you. But, you know, if there is an issue with excess snow, then the operator can contract with a provider that can remove the snow as needed during the season.
I just know that we're using up in the front part of that building with the new hotel going in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a little confused. Do you have like a possible shot that's a little bit broader? Because from just looking at this page, I'm not sure exactly where I am in the general campus.
It would be the area map.
Yeah, the
Let
area
me,
map is
actually, we have a good orthophoto usually as part of our EAF report, so here we go. So is that helpful? You can see that, sorry, let me get my hand again.
I'm also looking for the space where the hotel is going.
Yeah, so the hotel is going about where my hand is today.
Right, okay.
And, you know, generally, there's always been kind of shared parking in this area where my hand is
Right.
going right on the property line. And so for both the hotel and this project site, we considered, in the conservative sense, that demand was demand for our project. So when we did 300's parking analysis, we considered anyone parking here, whether they were actually for 400 or not, as demand for 300. Conversely, or Similarly, we are considering anyone parking in this kind of transition space as demand for 400. So we have a pretty conservative analysis going, but it is all written out in the parking analysis that we submitted. And, you know, what we saw for demand was a total of 292 spaces. Currently, there's in excess of 315. We'll be maintaining 315 with the proposed development. So based on the analysis that we've done, we don't see that there's an issue.
Okay.
Is your facility going to be used 7 days a week or 6 days a week, or?
Speak to that person.
5 days a week, as is the current space.
We did have a pre-application meeting on this one also with the applicant team. And I guess I'll just reiterate the need to look closely at the parking situation there, as you brought up, Fred. You know, take a look at the parking analysis in the report. A parking waiver is being requested, so we'll have to, you know, be sure that that's going to work. Also, I was going to suggest take a close look at the preliminary architectural renderings for the building. I think the drawings I saw look pretty good, but we'll have to make sure that it fits in well with the existing building and the surrounding area. So, and then according to the applicant, a floodplain development permit probably will also be required.
I believe that's the case, yes.
So I would check with the building department to make sure that if that is the case, he can have you fill out the proper application for a permit.
Okay.
But that would have to come before the board as well.
Understood.
Dennis, you were at the pre-application meeting. Do you have any early thoughts on this?
No, we just went through, basically, once they, we go through the provided information, but we'll provide a formal detailed review, but it would be probably an unlisted action. It's going to be with under an acre, so there won't be a SWIP. There's already a lot of utilities that are available. As you mentioned, it's in with 100-year floodplain, so it would need a flood permit from the building inspector on that. There's a couple of other things environmentally that they have to go through, such as soil aquifer, the Office of Parks and Recreation, which was very similar to what they had to do for the hotel. They just have to check those boxes. Going through, I don't think there's, there's no variances. I think the only thing they're looking for is a waiver on the parking. And then there's just some other, once the detailed plans come in, we'll have a more detailed review of everything. So that was kind of a high-level review.
Okay.
Is there any additional signage?
Today, there's no signage, but I see all my neighbors around me have signage, and I would love some signage.
At this point, we're not seeking any sign variances. We think that we can provide signs within the code. The rendering does show a sign in this kind of, at the porte cochere, which would be updated as part of this application to match the proposed architecture. In addition, you know, we know that at Westage that there's a real issue with wayfinding, and so we would be, you know, working with the board and the building inspector to make sure that we had the proper wayfinding and people could access the various suites and units that they were looking for their services.
Right.
Does that include, do you have any idea what the additional doctors or positions are going to be in that? So you have no idea because no one's printed it yet.
We haven't started the pre-leasing process yet. We have existing tenants who have expressed interest in taking on more space. We're currently 95% leased, so that's not really an opportunity I can offer today. But those would be the first people to claim some of this new space. Otherwise, once we're closer to approvals, that's when we'll talk to different practices around the community to see who's interested in customized space.
Because that would go back in with the parking that I'm concerned with, that we're losing parking and you're having a lot more
Sure,
different tenants coming in, means 2 or 3 more employees for each one, or 4 employees, and then,
So we've looked at the demand associated with the additional medical office space. And it's the same kind of space in terms of land use that currently exists. So the ratios that we've applied to determine what that demand is based on the existing demand, correlates. So although he doesn't know who his potential tenants are going to be, per se, they are going to be medical office tenants.
thank you.
So the rest of the campus is 2 stories. This is going to be a 4-story addition. So
That's right.
it's basically building almost the same kind of space, but just more vertical.
Yep.
Up, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the idea is, so this building was initially constructed in 1998 by my father. So the building's coming up on being 27 years old. This is an opportunity for us to sort of give the whole site a refresh and bring it into sort of the current era and expectation that tenants have of medical office, so that we can compete with some of the other medical office projects proposed in the area, and keep the building in the family and community for another 27 years.
I didn't get a chance to look at a lot of it, but what's the current square footage of the existing campus?
The existing campus is approximately 73,000 square feet.
Okay. All right.
And this is 20,500, I believe.
Okay.
Or 24,000 square feet.
24,000, yes. All right.
Do you want to talk briefly about the realignment of the entrance to the
Sure.
facility?
Yep. Let's see.
Kyle worked really hard on it.
Yes. So if you're familiar with this area, essentially you used to drive this way and you kind of had to loop around this way and then loop around again this way. What we've done here is, and then let me just zoom in a little bit more, is we've aligned, so there we go. We're going to saw cut this so that basically the edge of that concrete island is right where my hand is with the sidewalk, right? And then there's a crosswalk and another sidewalk, so that this is going to be a much straighter path. Essentially what was happening before was that, people were coming here and people were coming from here and no one knew what anyone was doing, right? So now they come here, they stop, and it's, very clearly they can pull straight into the parking area, make a left. These people, have a better idea of what folks are doing and can continue on their path. So it just streamlines the intersection. This was something that Fishkill came to us right away and said he wanted to resolve, that it was just not a good situation. And then in addition, they're adding the porte cochere at the entrance just to give an arrival space.
And that's specifically because, one of our anchor tenants is CP Unlimited, a nonprofit backed by the state that services the disabled community. And when these people are entering on wheelchairs on a sunny day, that's fantastic. But when it's snowing or even raining, we need to provide them some sort of coverage. So though the porte cochere is aesthetically beautiful, as designed by Labella, it actually is very functional.
And that's this part here, which is also glass to match the addition to kind of tie it all together.
So the main entrance is still staying where it is, you're just elaborating on it.
That's correct. I mean, there will be additional entrances back, right here is a door and there's a door on the opposite side. So there are added entrances. But yeah, the main entrance remains the same.
And will the entrances on the back side of the building?
There will be an entrance on the back side. I don't believe that there's an entrance on this side. Oh, maybe there is, right here by this door, by this car rather.
So I guess you'll be doing this in kind of like a phasing and swing spaces because of...
Right, and so we've included in our erosion sediment control plan construction phasing information as to where we'd be, closing off certain sections during construction and allowing, parking in certain areas. That is pretty well spelled out in the plans, but we can explain a little further at the next meeting.
I don't think we really asked about landscaping at the pre-app meeting, or not very much if we did. But is there an opportunity here to enhance or upgrade some of the landscaping, even if it's already there?
Certainly there's an opportunity. Just want to get an idea of
I mean, some of the trees in the parking area are pretty nice, but they are getting kind of big and old.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, to that point, I'm currently preparing for upgrades to the landscaping in the springtime. I look at some of my neighbors again who have very nice landscaping, and I need to catch up.
So, yeah, I mean, we are proposing for landscaping around the building addition. I'm just going to zoom over there so you can see it. You know, you can see right here, we have some landscaping and around the perimeter. And these are honeysuckle, winterberry, juniper, spirea, arborvitae shrubs, honey locust, so that's a deciduous tree, crabapple, very pretty blooming tree, and lilac, also a blooming tree. So the trees are the larger circles and the smaller circles are the shrubs. And it looks like we've got some larger trees here, over here. Yep, those are the honey locust. Was there a specific area that you were talking about?
No, just interested in
Yeah.
whatever might be possible there.
Okay.
Dominic, do you have any preliminary questions?
None at this point, other than, as Debbie identified on the agenda, that this project will have to be referred to the Dutchess County Planning Department.
Right. All right, any other questions from board members?
Are you proposing a canopy on the other side of the addition? I know the rendering didn't show a canopy, and you're kind of talking about adding one to the primary entrance. Is there-
So, sorry, this is just kind of challenging. Let's see, do we have another view? We do.
It's on the other side.
Oh, okay. So let me go back to the, all right, so that's the north. Partial and west. It's a little confusing. I think he's talking about where it's CP limited, so.
There is, I don't know how to access it here, maybe, so like on this side right here, so where these lines are is going to be designated drop-off for CP Unlimited for them every morning, and then we are going to put some sort of canopy coming off of the building to give them protection against the elements on that side.
And what about up at the corner, where it says the loading,
Yeah, that's what
Two-stop
he was
commercial
talking
building.
about, right?
and it says loading right there? And they both go into the main entrance?
They don't both go to the main entrance. This area right here, where the mouse is hovering over, will give you an entrance to the addition.
And there's an internal atrium
yeah.
between the two buildings.
And then there'll be a hallway that connects to the other side, from which you can exit and then enter into the main entrance over here.
And what about just to the left of that? Where it
Left
says
of-
loading?
Who go to the building plan? Let's see.
It says, it looks like. You see that?
Does this help?
No,
I can
no,
make
I'm
it
going to go
bigger.
up higher, across from the main entrance.
Across from the main entrance.
Okay. So here's the main entrance.
This backside.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's currently an employee entrance right over there.
just employee, because it says loading on the new one.
Well, I mean, it's not advertised as an entrance. Anyone could use it. You know, theoretically, patients could use it if they know about it, but
So that's existing condition. I mean, that must be where you get like certain supplies delivered.
yeah, a lot of the vendors enter from that side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and is that basically where the employees are going to be parking in the backside? Or you don't know?
The employees will park anywhere. I mean, with the new wayfinding, we're going to try to direct patients of different suites to park in specific locations.
So I'd suggest if you are planning a canopy at the west new entrance to the addition, that you show that on the architectural plans.
Okay.
I'm going to ask one more question. You plan on this for 26, or 27, or 28?
How quickly am I getting approved?
Well, that's how quick you get it to us and everybody else.
I didn't hear.
But we have some projects that have been going on for 10 years now, so.
Yeah, so construction start ideally would probably be 27 at the earliest.
Okay.
I didn't hear his question. Okay.
All right, well, why don't we see if there's anyone in the audience who would like to make informal comments on this proposal, 400 Westage addition and site modifications. Raise your hands if you would like to speak to this.
3 for 3.
So I don't see anyone back there. So if there aren't any more questions, or unless if you would like to say anything else, we'll ask for a motion to accept the application for the proposed 400 Westage Site Development Plan Amendment, and to refer the application to the town engineer, town planner, town planning board attorney, Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, and the Rombout Fire District for review and comment. Who would like to move that?
So moved.
Bob moved it. Is there a second?
Second.
Kevin seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank
See you
you.
soon.
All right, moving right along here. I have a suspicion it might slow down a little, but
I'm not saying anything, Mr. Chair.
so, under project reviews, continuing reviews, we have, the first one is Willow Lake Site Development Plan and Special Use Permit. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on September 23rd, 2025. All right, could the applicant team come on up and just give us an update on the September 23rd submission?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Planning Board. For the record, Zach Ham from Dynamic Engineering. With our last submission, we provided a number of documents requested by the board and the consultants. We provided a valley operations statement, confirmation from the Village Water and Sewer Department on the willingness to serve our development, additional sightline exhibits, a Phase 1B, which had no findings of archaeological significance, an updated EAF Part 1, a revised project narrative, traffic impact statement, point-by-point response letters to MJ's comments, as well as an updated civil set. It's a lot of information. Happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Questions?
I'm into parking today. I noticed that you're going to be stacking parking. 4 cars. How many valets are you going to have to move those 4 cars if I'm parked in the very front and I have to leave early? How, you're going to send 4 people out to move those cars? And then my other question is with the parking?
Yeah, there'll be more than 4. With me is Patrick Downey from our traffic team to opine a little bit on the valet.
Okay, but the other thing I have is, how many employees, when you have a full operation going with the catering hall and the, a function going, where we talked about, you gave me answers to stacking when they came in, but I'm concerned when people have to leave, and at the end of a party, everybody leaves at once. How in the hell are you going to get that done?
It's a good question.
And how many employees do you plan on having when you have a full function? because you're going to have a kitchen staff, you're going to have waiters and waitresses, valets, regular hotel staff.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a- yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so regarding the valet operation, once again, Patrick Downey with Dynamic Traffic. This is obviously a high-end guest experience that we're seeking here, so the name of the game here is going to be to staff it adequately to ensure it's efficient. We've seen some valet operations at other uses, sports arenas, playhouses, hospitals we've been involved with, can really move cars very efficiently, and at somewhere like here where guest experience is kind of the #1 goal, it will just be staffed to the extent necessary to achieve the goal. Regarding the employee count, yeah. Yeah, with respect to the employees, obviously the operation is still under refinement. We have a little bit to go before I can give you an accurate assessment and a number. The only comment I will make on that at the moment is that if you keep in mind how the employees arrive and depart, it's at a completely different time than the guests.
I was just concerned about their parking, period.
Sure, we completely
You know,
understand.
I'm assuming they're going to park the furthest parking lot from where where you're going to park the public.
We do also have parking proposed underneath the event venue and underneath the restaurant for staff parking, which the engineers can show you once more.
Oh, I didn't see that before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you folks have some sort of a communication or sales plan for communicating with the neighbors and the current residents in what is a fairly private sort of rural community, to make sure that you take into consideration any issues people may have with roads or traffic or any of that sort of thing? Is there like a sales plan or public communique brochures or anything like that that you intend to?
Yes, I'm going to address that at a high level at the moment. Obviously, we're in the planning process today. There's still a ways to go before we are through this process. We have communicated with some neighbors. Some have had conversations with us. We have attempted to communicate with some others. There are some neighbors that don't want to speak with us, which is understandable too. But we are open and willing to consider any and all potential issues that the neighbors may have. We've opened that up. We've opened the door. We've made ourselves available. We absolutely will and would like to communicate with the neighbors about our project plan.
And can you remind me which water district you're hooking into and which sewer district you're hooking into? Because there's two of them out there.
There are. It's the villages.
What?
The villages.
Village.
Village.
The village is the ultimate,
Yes.
but there are two town, I believe there are two town, Blodgett and, I don't remember what the other one is.
I'm not
Out that
100% sure. I can look into it, though.
Okay. Because it's normally the town and you're not hooking directly into the village, you're going through, I think, one of ours. Since I was here last night listening to them talk about the different. All right.
Since
check on that.
Since you folks,
Huh?
since you folks are really over top of the aquifer, is there any special mitigations that you're using to ensure, and that maybe a question to you as well, when we take a look at the plan, is there any special mitigations that we need to consider, given the fact that we are above the aquifer and you know, you're talking, I know that all of those cabins that you're putting on the hillside or planning to put on the hillside have lateral sewage disposal that gets then caught and gets tied into the village. But are there mitigation measures for salinization of the roads, runoffs, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we are located within a principal aquifer.
Yeah.
And as per the DEC requirements, when you're in an aquifer district and a sole source, it's basically a vertical separation requirement from the groundwater table. with all of the geotech we've done on site, there's actually shallow bedrock, so you don't really have a matrix to get to the groundwater, and we're compliant with all New York State separation requirements for all of our stormwater systems. And then there's basically a rock capped layer essentially.
Well, since we're getting into some of the more technical questions, why don't we ask Dennis to summarize MJ's memo, which is
Sure.
a substantial one. So maybe do a little more than summarizing this one. There seems to be some pretty important stuff in there.
Going through, this is our memo dated September 30th. Going through on the seeker, this will be a type 1 action. Going through, as I noted, they provided an updated long-form EAF. They will be disturbing more than an acre, actually 25 acres, so they have provided a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which will mitigate any of the runoff on the site during construction and during, after post-construction with their water quality and volume requirements. As I noted, they're going to be in the Village of Fishkill Water and Sewer District. They did receive comments or email correspondence from the village regarding capacity. And there has no capacity issues with both the water and the sewer. Part 3D was actually the comment about the primary aquifer, and as the applicant had mentioned, they did take the proper mitigation measures with the aquifer. E, they are within a archaeological sensitive area. I'll get to this a little bit more in the letter, but they did do a Part B, 1B archaeological study. 3F, they're located within 5 miles of the Fishkill Ridge, so there are some requirements for that, but seeing that the project is located approximately 2 miles west from the ridge, actually separated by Route 9 and the approximately 600-foot change in elevation, there's really not going to be any adverse impacts to the aesthetic resources. There will be vegetation that will be removed. They have provided a pretty substantial landscaping plan. There's actually a net increase in the overall number of trees that are in there on the site. They'll be removing trees that will be blocking natural light, but again, they have berms and landscaping. All the lighting will be directed on site and meet all of the dark skies requirements and the candle foot's intensity at the property line. Additionally, I know there's some concern about the traffic and vehicle headlights going on to adjoining properties. On the plans where they actually have the parking, they'll have a pretty substantial landscaping, and then they have a 4-foot high retaining wall that would actually, again, block all of the any vehicle headlights that could possibly spill into adjacent properties. Again, impacts on land and water. They have a sediment erosion control plan. They are within, or there's DEC and federal wetlands on site. I believe they're in the process of getting jurisdictional determination from them. Right now, there's nothing proposed within those boundaries, but we would need jurisdictional determination from both agencies. Impact on aesthetic resources. Again, they have provided some additional view sheds from the neighboring properties. Again, they had a 5-year and 10-year growth just to show the difference between your day one operations and where you're going to be down the line. We did make a comment to provide possibly just one more, just slightly over a little bit, just to show another one through that building. I believe it's going to be the gym. During noise impacts, there will be, obviously during construction, there'll be some noise impacts during the operations. It would have to meet all the town requirements for noise. We can make that a condition, not even a condition of final, it'll be a requirement of final approval. We do note that they did a part 1A and a 1B of the archaeological report. The report indicates that there's no archaeological significance found on the project. site. They'll have to go through and take that and send that to SHPO. So we will, once that gets approved by SHPO, they'll offer a letter of no impact. Traffic, we'll get to that as part of the application, the review. Zoning compliance, they are asking for a couple, not a couple, there's a front yard setback for the parking, and then they're asking for a couple of variances for the number of parking and the number of loading spots. The board is able to reduce it up to 50% for both of those. They're asking for approximately 40% reduction in parking and a 50% reduction in the number of loading spots. As they mentioned, they did provide in their narrative a pretty robust schedule of how they're going to be handling the on-site parking with the valet and different operations. The planning board would have to review that and feel that meets the requirements and justifies the waiver for the parking. The site will require a special use permit. Again, the applicant has provided a narrative on how they meet those requirements. The board will have to make a determination if they meet those requirements set forth by the special use permit. Aquifer Overlay District, again, they have provided a narrative how they meet all those requirements. The Phase 1B, again, we kind of went over that before. There's no further, their report recommends that there's no further archaeological investigation warranted. We'll just have to get the sign off from SHPO. Getting into the actual plan review, they did a pretty good job of answering a lot of the questions before. Again, the overall site plan, I'm on page 7 now. Again, we just note that the parking spaces and seeking a waiver, again, the tandem parking and the size of the parking spots, that would be up to the planning board to provide that waiver. They did provide a cut and fill analysis. There is quite a bit of fill is coming in, but we can go through and, as part of the sediment erosion control plan, we're just going to look for a little bit more detail on how they're bringing that fill in and placement. They did provide some of that, but I think we just need to get a little bit more detail on that. On the grading sheet, I did make a comment. There was one area where the cabins are, where it looked like there was a stream. You're doing some regrading. I think you provided the regrading. I think we just need to finesse that a little bit, just to address some of our concerns, but I think that's an offline conversation that we can have. Again, there's going to be some substantial road improvement or utility improvements, so there will be within the right-of-way of the town, so they'll have to get the appropriate town permits from the highway super and provide all of the appropriate traffic safety. The landscaping, I think overall we're in agreement with the landscaping. We're getting some technical things here about there was a couple of species that we had some questions on. There was a couple of placement of something that was supposed to be in the shade, was kind of in the sun. So it was really not so much of what was providing, kind of finessing where the actual plants would thrive. So there's some very technical, detailed comments on the landscaping. Again, soil and sediment erosion control. You're going to be disturbing over an acre, so you need to apply for a 5-acre disturbance waiver. And again, with that, we'll just look for a very detailed phasing plan and how everything's going to be working on site. Some minor comments on the details. Again, some minor comments on the sediment erosion control. The traffic impact statement, we did have some comments about the level of service at the intersection of Route 9 and Van Wyck Lane. There's some loss of service at that intersection. The mitigation was to change the timing of the lights at that intersection. I think we need to work with the DOT, obviously it's DOT jurisdiction, so I think we just need to work with the DOT. I don't know if that's going to adequately address it, but we just need to make sure that the level of service at that intersection is maintained. Again, we're going through here some site distance comments that we had, looking for some more detail on the site distance and stopping distance. There is some areas that are a little tight, so we would ask just for a stopping distance on top of the site distance. And then one of the comments in here right now, I mean, I guess this is up to the board also with granting the waiver. You know, the applicant did provide the valet operation statement, but if for whatever reason down the line, if there was some kind of change in either the operations of the site or change in use and somehow how that would work with what's being proposed right now. So again, that's just something that the board would have to take into consideration when they're determining if they're going to grant that waiver or not. And that's it.
Dennis, question for you. We have a well on Snook Road. They're hooking into the village, which is coming up be coming up Route 9. I'm assuming that's where they're hooking in?
Yes.
But that's before they're, and they're not hooking in, because I'm trying to understand how we have all well, and we blend with the village, but we're not in our district, if it's in that right there.
Well, I think right now it's in the village's water district. I mean, we can take a look into that, and I can talk to the applicant and the village and the town to see how they want to handle it. But they did reach out to the village water department.
Well, I understand that, but again, I believe it's in the town water district, but again, I can
look into that.
And the only reason I'm saying is because we're right there, all right? Because we have no water going up Snook Road, so there's nothing for them to hook in. The earliest place is. And I don't know where Compton Commons is getting their water from.
It would probably be the same place because it's going out that way to hook up.
Because I don't remember going way back, it's so long ago that we said what district they were in.
Yeah, so let's
And we
find
had
out.
problems with the main and all of that stuff.
Yeah, let's find out more
And just
about that.
something we should really look into.
Yep.
We can look into that.
All right. So now, are there any other questions from board members? We sort of got into some questions, but anything in the MJ report or any other questions for the applicant? And then I'll have kind of a little checklist of some things to go through also.
Yeah, I have a question about the general traffic area, not so much the intersections of Route 9, although that's an issue at Snook Road, and of course 84. I think the traffic in those areas can definitely handle the additions. What I'm more concerned about is the traffic going from the intersection of Route 9 up Snook Road to the location. And then any traffic coming from the Wickeby or Fishkill Farms areas in that area. I drove through that on a beautiful day with a high-performance vehicle, and at 30 miles an hour, with the curves and the sight lines, I had to brake quite a bit. So what I'm concerned about is there anything that you guys are planning on doing with those roads to improve them, to ensure that any traffic that goes through there, especially when you have a full house, to make those roads safer? I'm not saying that they're unsafe at 30 miles an hour, but if you have bumper-to-bumper traffic going through those roads at night, that could potentially be an issue.
Sure. So at this point, there's no improvements proposed on the roads. I've obviously visited the site, driven the same roads, and agree with you that it does have existing curves. On the one side, that presents some challenges, but on the other side, that actually has sort of built-in speed control. You know, to your point, even driving the speed limit that's posted feels a little bit uncomfortable. There's actually warning signs out there for the curves with lower advisory speeds, kind of suggesting to travel even slower than that. And that's actually one of the points we'll be clarifying with Mr. Lynch's offices on that site triangle comment he mentioned. So, you know, we don't expect any safety issues to result from additional traffic added to that, because the road really is an existing condition outside our control, and those curves provide some benefit if you think about it in terms of reducing speeds geometrically.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, we want to be sure that we mitigate any potential issues. There's no places to pull over, for example, if somebody for whatever reason may need to pull over at night, coming or going to an event. I don't know, changing a shirt or adjusting clothing or whatever, right? Something to a wedding, you know, and if somebody were to pull over, then it creates a bottleneck for anybody else driving those roads. So I was feeling uncomfortable.
I guess he's saying, like, I guess, you know, that road was not intentional for, I guess, what's coming up as far as all this development, like you said, on the other side and the front on Route 9, Continental, and everything else. I drove it too. I've gone up and down that road many a times, and it's a concerning issue. I mean, the land is there, and I can understand how you can do that part of it, but that road is that road. It's just like the Conic Parkway was a parkway just to drive whatever. Now it's become a, you know, freeway. And I guess what he's saying is that there's concerns of how people are going to come and go in there with the volume of, you know, what are you going to have, like you said, some kind of thing going on the property other than just the cabin rentals, because I know you have, you know, the building, the rentals, and also possibly other stuff. So it's kind of concerning.
Yeah, so I think it's sort of a twofold issue in terms of the actual capacity of the road to handle the number of vehicles. That's certainly not an issue. I think that's well documented in the traffic study. There's very little traffic on the road today, so there's a lot of capacity remaining. And the analysis of vehicles entering and exiting the road at the traffic signal is really the focus that we're going to work out with Mr. Lynch's office regarding the levels of service he brought up. In terms of the, you know, pulling over concern, that's certainly something, at least, you know, when I'm going to a wedding, I normally bring the car to the valet, get out, grab my jacket from the back, etc. I would not expect that to be happening on the road necessarily. I think that would be pretty bold considering there's no shoulder.
Reality.
Other questions?
Yeah, is there a proposed maintenance building on the site? I didn't see one on the plans. I mean, you're going to have golf carts all over the site. Where are those golf carts going to go when they're not being used? There's going to be a lot of them around. You have your parking lot, but where are these golf carts going to go? Golf carts are going to have to be maintained. Where on the site is that happening?
We have two buildings, the conference center, we want to call it that, and then the restaurant. Both have sub-grade areas where all that can be maintained and done. The first level of the building is the parking area, and then the second level is the actual use area of the building. So we've already designed that into the structures.
So under the dining hall is where?
Yeah, we have parking lots in both those structures. So the restaurant and the conference center both have parking areas in both structures.
So that parking is not intended for staff?
It is, but we have golf carts there as well.
So I think the point is we probably will need to see those kind of details of the underground parking, the maintenance, all that. Not something that goes unsaid. And that, I mean, that does have something to do with the overall parking requirements, because the parking requirements do take into consideration number of employees as well as guests and visitors. So it makes sense to show the whole kit and caboodle, so they say. Other questions? Anthony, you have any other questions?
No. Let's see what they provide in the next submittal.
Well, let me go over a couple of things, more than a couple, actually. So regarding visiting the site, I don't know how many board members were able to get out there so far, but as we said at the last meeting, contact Debbie, and she can coordinate with the applicants And it'd be a good idea to get out there if you haven't already.
I haven't gotten any calls, so.
Okay. So please do that. As per the tree preservation plan provisions of Chapter 140, Section 140-6 of the Town of Fishkill Code, tree preservation is an important item, and the board would like to see preserving as many significant mature trees on the site as possible, and providing documentation describing how significant existing trees will be protected during construction and preserved in the future. So I know there is a tree plan, but it really isn't what our code is asking for in terms of a tree preservation plan, which gets into, like, you know, which ones are really going to be able to be preserved. There's some pretty nice trees out there, and any that could be preserved and blended in with the new landscaping that's being proposed would be great. Then, the expanded narrative provided by Dynamic Engineering was really good. We appreciate that. Answered a lot of the questions that I think we had earlier in the process. But a key point that I think needs to be further emphasized as the planning board proceeds is to minimize disturbance on neighboring residents, which we've been hearing a lot about. And, you know, that's regarding noise, lights, parking, vehicles entering and exiting the site, and other things. And so as a really good example, the board received correspondence from the Picones at 30 Cathy Court. Their house is directly across from the proposed eastern driveway next to parking lots 3 and 4. And they expressed concern with the increased activity in and out of the site using the eastern driveway and what impacts that might cause on their property. Even though the driveway, I guess our understanding is it's not going to be like the main entrance to Willow Lake, it's still obviously there and is going to be used a good bit, especially during large events. So, you know, anything that further can be done to minimize that kind of impact would be appreciated and necessary, in fact. I don't know if there's any possibility of somehow shifting the eastern driveway further to the east a little bit by possibly redesigning the parking area. That's one possibility that maybe could be looked at. This is all relevant too because it looks like an area variance is going to be required for parking lots 3 and 4, encroaching on the required front yard setback in the R40 zoning district. So the parking lots and the entrance driveway kind of go hand in hand. So we need to get a good comprehensive look at all of that and what the potential impacts on the adjoining neighbors is going to be. Let's see, I read in the report there have been some discussions and input from the fire department, but we definitely will need to get direct communications from the fire department at some point soon. Let's see, Dennis talked about the possible parking waiver, so the board will need to look closely at that. It looks from the parking analysis like the waiver probably would be justified, and in terms of going along with the planning board's desire to minimize impacts, you know, on the site. Open space areas, trying to preserve as much open space as possible, so less parking is always a good thing, but obviously meeting the requirements of especially the event traffic is going to be important as well. So then, this caught my eye. In the full environmental assessment form, part 1 on page 2, government approvals, county agencies indicates possible Dutchess County IDA involvement. So I didn't know what that was about. What role would the IDA play? Is there going to be possible IDA financing or anything?
There's no involvement of the IDA at this time.
So are you going to take that out of the environmental assessment form?
We'll resubmit.
Okay. So you're going on record saying there will be no involvement of, or communications with Dutchess County IDA?
Unless something changes, the answer is no for now.
Okay. All right. Okay, any other questions from board members?
Can you also show us in the future, when all of the golf carts come into the restaurant, where are they going to be parking, in the basement? If it's a rainy day, or
During, when they're being maintained and charged?
not maintained, when they're in use? When the people come to the restaurant from their cabin, and it's a beautiful day, we don't care. But if it's a bad day, snowing, it does snow here, it does rain once in a while. We'd like to have more of it, but, you know. Are they parking under the restaurant?
It's an important point that our architect just made. I just want to make the board aware that there's not an individual proposed golf cart use on the property. There would be golf cart shuttles.
Oh, it's just shuttles?
Golf cart shuttles would take the guests to their, correct. We can't have 80 individual guests with golf carts all around the property. That's not remotely what we've proposed.
Okay.
No, these would be shuttles. We anticipate 4 or 5 of them running the property at any given moment, as needed. And again, with guest capacity, that would increase and decrease.
Okay, but where would they be dropped off?
At the restaurant building, if you look at the picture right here, there's 2 covered areas that actually have lifts to enter to the second floor, where the restaurant's located on the second floor.
So
The
they
first
drive
floor
up?
at grade is like a parking area, and then the second floor, like the one level up, is where the actual restaurant is. So, and then back here, we have a loading area, so any additional golf carts could just be parked here while they wait, but most of the golf carts are going to be in full service circulating around the property. So like, I don't want to get the idea that there's 80 golf carts with individual people. There's just 5 or 6 driving around.
Do I have to stand outside and flag one down?
Yes, and yell nice and loudly. The plan here, you know, again, just from a top level down, right, we submitted again to update our narrative. The idea is to make this as natural and as peaceful a recreation area as possible. It's not to have 80 golf carts running around, it's not to be, you know, loud and disturbing. The goal is to preserve as much of the mountain land as humanly possible and make this a place where people can relax and have a retreat. So to that extent, we want to minimize the amount of golf carts we have rolling around, the amount of disturbances on the site, the noise on the site. I know it's been a big question. So we'll get to all those details as we continue this process, but that's the utmost importance for us, for our guests, as well as for the community.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I understood that there wouldn't be golf carts for each individual guest, but I'm glad that was clarified tonight. But it does bring up a question I had, looking at the valet study. For disabled people, for disabled guests coming into the site, how are they going to be transported? Because golf carts might not be the appropriate means for that.
Yeah, they do make specialized carts.
Well, what if people are in wheelchairs? Is there going to be some way of handling that?
They make accessible wheelchairs. They can roll on and they get on the lift. Patrick Lesper, the architect. They have golf carts that actually have a lift like you would see like the vans. They make golf carts the same way. They can come on with their wheelchair and then be brought up. All the buildings have accessibility features, so they're all accessible. And then we actually have, 5? We have 5 fully handicap compliant, 6 fully handicap compliant units that are for the handicapped and the disabled. So that's all been worked out into the plan.
Do you possibly have like a photo or a cut sheet kind of thing of what a handicap accessible golf cart might look like?
Sure, we can get you
Since
that.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
Yeah. It's going to be similar to what we have, like where the lift comes off the back, it drops down, they're going to be on the back of the actual golf cart.
So
Are they
it's
still
a
called golf
little,
carts?
it's a little stronger than an actual golf cart.
Yeah, they're designed specifically for it, but they are available.
Okay.
They look like golf carts, but they're a little bit different.
Do they have a special name?
We're putting you on the spot.
Everybody knows the golf carts, but maybe they're not golf carts, because they,
Well, do you want to get one, Fred?
hey, I wouldn't mind, I'll take it.
All right.
I have another question on my overall Van Wyck Lake Road traffic concern. Back in another one, the last century, I used to do some active simulations, mathematical simulations for, machine loading and that kind of stuff. And I understand that simulations can be done today, mathematical simulations for traffic studies, not necessarily just analog studies, but using Poisson distributions and Markov chains and that kind of stuff. The engineering guys should know that, right? Have you done something like that, or are you planning on doing something like that for Willow Lake Road? I mean, I'm thinking about a full house. I'm thinking about when you got, a busy weekend, you got a wedding, and you got people coming and going to the cabins. And I wish you a lot of success, but that's going to tax the existing infrastructure. So, the best we can do is to simulate some of that.
Sure. So the traffic study we submitted, that's essentially a series of simulations using a whole lot of statistical analysis set forth by the Highway Capacity Manual. That's a federal, essentially how to analyze traffic impacts book. And then there's a number of different analysis software packages used to run those calculations and those formulas. I won't name them all, but there's a whole bunch. They're in here, and that's essentially exactly what we submitted and was reviewed by your professionals for both a normal daily operation and also the full house peak event operation.
And I looked at some of that, and I just did not see like the throughput rates of a particular point in the individual streets. Like, for example, what's a throughput rate at corner number 2 as you leave the building going towards Route 9?
Yeah, so the points being analyzed, to call them points are the intersections, one being the traffic signal, and then each of the site driveways. So it's essentially the capacity for every turning movement at each of those locations. And in the back of the report, there's a whole, thick section of blue and white tabulated forms. That's essentially the backup calculations spit out by those analysis programs.
And I wasn't concerned so much about the Route 9 intersection, because that can be handled via existing traffic signals. What I'm concerned about is that, if you've got 40 or 50 cars in the distance between your driveway and Route 9, what is the throughput rate of those 40 or 50 cars if you have 40 or 50 cars going for a half hour at a time?
30 minutes to clear the traffic.
At any particular point on that road, like a particular curve.
Yeah, so
that's the kind of stuff that I'm concerned about.
the limiting point, the bottleneck, if you will, is the signal itself, because between our site, exiting traffic doesn't have to stop for anything else until it reaches the signal. So that calculation takes into account the green and red time, what traffic is on the other movements at the signal. That's the bottleneck point.
So there'll be a queue there, I understand that. And that
Yes.
queue will be, 20 cars deep, potentially, depending on the signal of, the timing of the signal. But what I'm concerned about is, as that queue fills up from behind, what is the throughput rate of cars leaving your driveway? And that results in the traffic on that segment of the road and the buildup at the queue.
Yeah, so it's really a spillback of queue from the traffic signal. So in the packed house exiting analysis that's in this report at the moment, at the peak time, it's about a 9 to 10 car queue waiting at the signal, at the red light. So that's a few hundred feet. That really barely gets you past the first curve by the restaurant at the corner, whereas the site's several thousand feet away. So there's not going to be a queue from the signal to the site or anything of that nature. It's really a free flow from leaving the site to getting to the signal. It's the first place people need to stop.
Okay, so.
Because we just had a redo of 52 from 84, traffic lights, and it's been not the best thing because of, like you said, it's peak hours and volume and everything else, and that Route 9 way now comes down, and if you go there in the morning, if you go there in the evening, it's like a raceway, and people are trying to, get to the light and beat the light. So, it is concerning because that light, it hasn't had that much traffic at this point coming out of Home Depot, the Plaza, the old Duchess Mall. And there's a lot of stuff going on down around that area, so it is going to be a big concern.
Including large trucks.
A couple things to keep in mind to that point. So, Van Wyck Lake Road versus Route 9 is really apples to oranges in terms of how many vehicles they carry. There's, orders of magnitude more on Route 9, but more importantly, what you're seeing, I assume, is during the peak hours of the, commuting traffic when things are at their worst. The good thing about this use is that during the typical peak hours, the trip generation of this site's not actually that high. For evening events, it's going to be off-peak. So that's actually one of the comments in the current MJ letter that we would be resubmitting additional information for, is preparing an analysis of an evening hour when the site's actually letting out an event.
Because, my thing is the layman or the real rudimentary kind of thing is like sometimes you look some places and like I said right now, 52 from 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock, there's like, let's say, 50 or 100 too many cars. And then some other traffic study comes along or something's going on and they say, well, it's going to add 4.3 or 7.8, but that's on top of the other 50. I know I'm making it very simplistic, but it's already jammed. And so even if it isn't that big of an increase, it is an increase. And it's like, it becomes like almost like a, they're starting to have to put grid boxes because people are blocking off streets along 52. So, you don't have to really maybe worry about that going to Van Wyck Lake Road, but some of the people that live in there would have to be concerned about it if they have to get out of their development, out of their house or something like that, because, like you said, there is a lot of stuff going on. It's just, it's a big concern, and I think you can see that from us, and I'm sure we're going to hear.
Yeah, and I think between now and the next meeting, really one of the comments that we want to address remaining in the MJ letter is regarding that, exiting post-event traffic period. So I think some of these items might shake themselves out between now and then, and we can, have a better conversation at that time.
Are you familiar with the Fresh Air Fund up the hill and the buses?
I'm sorry, can you say that, repeat?
The Fresh Air Fund, Herald Tribune, whatever it is now, the Fresh Air Fund up the hill with the campers and the buses?
We're familiar generally with the site. What's the question about it? Sorry.
Well, I mean, do they go by you or they go Snook Road? Which road do they go up when they come off Route 9?
I mean, we've counted the vehicles passing our site from wherever they're coming from. I can't speak to where any one site chooses to go, but we know how many are passing this site.
I'm talking about the buses.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about the, okay. During the summer, whatever you will call it today. All right?
We can get you an answer on that by speaking to the Fresh Air Fund, but maybe.
I mean, he lives there.
I do.
Do they go by you or do they go Snook Road?
I believe it's Snook Road, but I am happy to reach out. We've had great conversations with them. They're very supportive. We're happy to check and confirm their current route and answer that.
Yeah, because I don't know, I don't see
I
them.
don't know definitively, so I don't want to answer that, but I don't think that they come down Van Wyck because I have never seen them coming down. We actually have some neighbors here on the regular. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so then maybe on occasion.
What do they say, Snook Road?
They said maybe both.
They use both, okay, because
we'll
that's
get
a
an answer on
concern
this
too
issue.
at certain times.
Don't
but-
take us nodding our heads that we agree with you.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Chairman, just wanted to go back to a question you raised earlier about
Okay.
the sightline and the correspondence you received earlier. Back with our July submission, we did include a sightline exhibit, which is on the screen here.
Right.
It does show the exact kind of looking up the new proposed road that was requested. Something important that I kind of wanted to note to the board here, you can see this opening here essentially in the existing landscaping. As part of our next submission, we will include some low shrubbery as well as some larger mature trees to help shield any headlights that would be coming outside of the new driveway to help shield and protect that. The other important note is this area is actually not supposed to be open and cleared. It's actually part of a 50-foot required permanent undisturbed area as part of the 1977 filed subdivision plat, the OLES subdivision plat.
So which subdivision is that?
OLES, O-L-E-S.
Okay. And that's the houses that's on the...
It's these houses
north.
as well as the ones to the east, correct?
Mm-hmm. Do you know how wide the right-of-way is on Van Wyck Lake Road?
It's 50 feet.
50 feet?
Yep, but that particular property is only about 15 feet at that area. It comes to almost a point. And then you have the town property to the west, It's the 14 and a half acres of permanent undisturbed.
Right.
As well as you can see the neighboring properties all have the respected 50-foot required as part of the subdivision plat. So that opening should not be there.
So you'll show that on a...
We'll show it on a
updated
subsequent
plan?
landscaping plan, yep.
Okay. And then, in particular, we had already gone over MJ's memo with possible variances. I think the parking and loading issues would be probably handled as waivers through the planning board, but the front yard setback for the parking areas, 3 and 4 in particular, something that you probably want to check with the building inspector on and get possibly a determination from him on that.
Sure.
Not sure about the steep slope, construction of steep slope areas. Of course, that would depend on, what our definition in the code is on steep slopes. I don't remember what that is, Dennis, do you?
I think it's over 20%.
20%?
And I think it's very limited to the back area where they're putting in a couple of the western, I'm going to say plain west, cabins. So it's not a very big area.
All right,
I think
so-
typically with steep slopes, it's just preparing a proper sediment erosion control plan and a slope stability plan,
Yeah,
which
so-
is included in their SWIP.
So it's not necessarily a variance from the zoning board, but
No.
just accommodating
Yes.
that with measures, okay.
And one point on that as well, the town code, it's 20% over a distance of 100 feet. So we'll prepare an additional plan that kind of shows those
Okay.
specific areas as it relates to your code, which are pretty limited on the site.
All right, good. Well, we've gone through a lot. I was going to ask maybe Dennis and Dominic, we, at some point, will need to declare intent to be lead agency. We did classify this as a type 1 action at the September meeting. I know there's still a good bit of things and updates in the plans to go, but I don't see a reason why we couldn't go ahead with declaring our intent to be a lead agency and circulating the notice of intent at this point. Do you see any reason we shouldn't do that?
Please, we can't hear you.
We're talking about the notice of intent for lead agency, sir. Thank you.
Yes, I think it's a good idea. It's important to start that process early so that you can get the input from the other agencies that are involved. The one thing that I would note, though, is that consistent with the discussion tonight, that the Industrial Development Agency is being taken off of the EAF, that revision should be made prior to the circulation for lead agency. So it should be, if you do decide to circulate for lead agency tonight, it should be subject to the submission of a revised EAF to, at a minimum, take off that agency, since they wouldn't be receiving the notice.
So we could officially start that process of lead agency, but not circulate it until we get the revised environmental assessment form. I think
That
we've
would be
done-
my suggestion.
Yeah, we've done that before.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll confirm and recirculate that.
And then one important note on the EAF as well, it's just listing potential involved agencies, not necessarily every required agency.
Right, right.
But we would still circulate to all of them, because even if they're just potentially involved agencies, they may very well be interested agencies in the project.
Understood.
All right. So on that note, would somebody like to make a motion for the planning board to declare its intent to be lead agency to conduct a coordinated environmental review for the proposed Willow Lake development, and to authorize circulation of a notice of intent to involved and interested agencies, subject to revision of the environmental assessment form, part 1?
I'll do that, because I like the project.
Fred moves that. Is there a second? Second. Jody seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Anything else that the applicant would like to cover?
Yeah, the only request would be to maintain open communication with the town consultants.
Yeah, we did authorize that at the last meeting, so that's an ongoing thing, as long as there's no attorney involvement, in which case attorney to attorney would be necessary, but you've been through that before.
Understood. Thank you.
Excuse me, could I just say one thing about the site visit?
Okay.
Considering Jennifer Van Tile, because of where we are in the year, we're getting close to the period of time where we're going to go into a leaf-off condition for quite a while. So I think that this would be a great opportunity for members of the board to visit the site and see it in a leaf-on condition so that you're aware of both situations. I'm sure there have been already lots of discussions about visual impacts and things like that. So if it's possible, we really would like to have you come to the site and see it in all conditions. So
I thought we were going to get together, you were going to make an appointment with...
I believe that Debbie was waiting on the planning board members to reach out for a schedule, but...
Oh, we have to reach to her?
Well, I guess we can coordinate that with Debbie.
If you can give us a couple of days and set it with Debbie, and then Debbie can communicate with us, and we can sign up for it that way.
Sure, that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll circulate the dates for the board.
But we'll
That'd be much
certainly
better
adjust
than-
them to your convenience as well, so we'll posit some dates and get started.
Okay. And even if it's just one planning board member at a time, which in my mind is fine, we still would like you to coordinate with Debbie, because it's just not a site where you go out and wander around.
Why not? I've done it before.
Well, don't say that in public.
But not when I was on the planning board.
All right. Just kidding, Fred. All right. So I think that's probably it for the night.
Thank you
And
very much.
We look forward to the next submission.
Sir?
Do you have a quick question?
Yes, I do. I'd like to have less than 5 minutes.
No, we don't do that. We did that at the first meeting, and...
I would like to know when...
Excuse me, you are out of order, and we will have the opportunity for people to speak again at a public hearing, whenever that may be. That'll be at some point, probably not too far off in the future, but that's the opportunity for the public to speak. You're welcome to send in a letter or an email to the planning office, as others have done, so please do that. And we do consider those comments, as you heard me comment tonight, in quite a bit of detail on one from a neighbor there. So, okay. Thank you very much, everyone. So moving on to the next project review, we have Fishkill Medical Park Site Development Plan, Special Use Permit and Subdivision. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on September 24, 2025. Welcome back, Mr. Kane.
Good evening.
And please give us a quick update on the submission.
Certainly. Right. Good evening, all members of the board and Mr. Chairman. Again, yes, Jeff Kane, representing Kirchhoff Acquisitions, and Rebecca Volk, our attorney for the project. I think what we submitted at your request was the draft data recovery plan for recovery of any potential artifacts on the site, and we provided a kind of a sequence of events that would take place around the data recovery. So those have all been in the package there, and again, I think we provided what you had asked for, and our request is hopefully to move into the next step here, and hopefully to that you can authorize preparation of a draft negative declaration for the next meeting. That's really where we are, and happy to answer any questions that you might have for us. Thank you.
Welcome, Liz. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, everybody?
Okay, we're all good. So I think we'll go right to first MJ's review memo. That one will be a little bit easier to get through, and then we'll go to CPL's memo.
I'm going through our memo dated September 26th, very similar to our last memo. We just make note that it was classified as unlisted action by the board in January. Most of our comments are addressed with one comment. We just, again, we asked for a full plan of directional boring as part of the site, the issuance of a building permit. Other than that, everything else has been pretty much addressed, and we just make note of the requirement for the Board of Health approval.
Okay, you're next up, Liz.
So, just skipping right to the bottom of page 2 of the most recent review memo.
Hey, Liz, in the future, when you said there's a minor change, could you tell us where the minor change is? I had to look through the whole damn...
Well, that's why she did it.
To see what your minor change was.
She actually corrected that original email, if you read the second one.
Well.
Sorry to say.
Oh, well, I read, probably in the first one.
So we don't really...
I'll take that under advisement.
We don't even want to know what the original looked like. I think it was something...
I don't think it was
There
very...
wasn't, it was a typo
Yeah.
in the email. There was no original, this is the only.
Yeah, the header. I didn't fix the header. That was the problem. Just plain lazy. Wanted to get the memo out to you and just, what can I say?
Sorry for...
I'm slipping in my old age.
All right, go ahead.
Amen. So anyway, I'm gonna zoom through this. So I'm skipping to the bottom of page 2 and basically reiterating from the Harkin report. And they talk about doing snow fencing and signage around the sites to ensure there's no impact on until OPRHP approves specific protection plan. Fencing and signage has been added to the project plans. And then I'm just asking for a specific revision on the plans where any site disturbance is shown. Top of page 3, show and label fencing and signage on all the site plan sheets and show and label pre-contact sites 1, 2, and 3 on all site plan sheets where disturbance is indicated. And then skipping to the middle of the page, the OPRHP notes are on the sheets where disturbance would occur, and the notes talk about avoidance and protection plan, which will be developed for review by OPRHP. The OPRHP notes don't state any prohibition about disturbance in these areas, so I think, some notation could be beefed up a little bit to make that clearer. And then comment number 7, according to what I read from the OPRHP, and I'm going to correct myself here, New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, or OPRHP. The DRP does need to be submitted for review using the Cultural Resource Information System. This is quoting from their letter. The DRP is also to be reviewed by the DEC, Stockbridge, Muncie Community, and the Delaware Nation. So there still is a review step to be done. Excuse me. And then on page 4, so that data recovery plan, this is in number 12, needs to be submitted. And item number C, while the submitted Phase 3 archaeological data retrieval plan and avoidance plan seems detailed and appears to address the above description, it must be submitted via the CRIS and get an approval from SHPO. And that's because I read in there, it wasn't really clear to me in the response whether or not that was going to be done right away. And then item number...
It was submitted same day, just so you know. Right?
What?
It was submitted the day received.
Okay.
It's been up on the CRIS site. So.
Okay. Item number 13, the sequence of activities, I expressed some concerns about that. So maybe some clarification could be done. This isn't comment number 13, that there could be potentially disturbance in and around pre-contact site 2, and it's just because the plan sheets that actually show disturbance don't make it clear that there's going to be protection in there, like a set of steps that would be done, like a phasing plan. And so I'm concerned about step G, construction activities commencing at the site other than within the area to be mitigated. I'm concerned that seems premature in terms of there being a need for more detail on the plan to coordinate how that would be done. So I did make some comments about the sequence of steps that was provided. And based on that, my comment 14 is to say, I think it would make sense to authorize preparation of a draft full EAF Part 2, but I'm expressing some hesitation about waiting for OPRHP's response on the DRP, because I think that would be a cleaner way to go. Of course, I defer to the planning board. You may want to go ahead and consider authorizing both full EAF Parts 2 and 3, and also, I defer to you if you would like to have the draft seeker negative declaration prepared also. And I think that's really it. The remaining site development plan comments are kind of, cleanup.
Okay, well, normally I would go right to the board for questions, but I'm going to use my authority as chair to go ahead and make a suggestion.
Can I add one more thing, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Before we jump in, right, so, as I said, the draft DRP, and again, this is a consultant who, this is what they do, so they prepare these DRPs, and so they have a whole series of requirements they must meet. They've got a lot of experience doing it. In some informal communications between OPRHP staff and the consultant, OPRHP is not, they don't have any issues they've identified, and we expect that they won't have any. They have heard back from the Stockbridge Muncie, and they don't have any comments on the DRP, and just waiting on the Delaware Nation and Delaware Tribe to respond. So, it is moving ahead, and again, as expected, there's really no comments expected on the DRP at this point from the, again, informal comments that have been received. So, thank you.
So, as we've been hearing, the applicant has submitted a Phase 3 data recovery plan and avoidance plan prepared by Hartkin Associates as requested by the board, and it, as we now found out, has been submitted to the CRIS on through Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. So CPL's memo, as we just heard, suggests proceeding with the draft EAF Part 2 for the November 13th meeting, but possibly waiting on New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, Historic Preservation response sign-off. But it's clear from the applicant's response letter that OPRHP sign-off will not occur until the plans have been submitted, data retrieval and a report to OPRHP have been completed, and proper short-term and long-term protective measures have been put in place to ensure protection of the archaeological sites. That's my understanding anyway. And so after reviewing the DRP and the avoidance plan and the applicant's suggested mitigation process and the sequencing plan and the response letter, I suggest authorizing both the draft EAF Parts 2 and 3 and a draft neg deck for the November 13th meeting. The reason I say that is it's apparent that the mitigation process required by OPRHP as an involved agency will and is occurring, and that OPRHP is responsible for ensuring that the mitigation is properly completed by the applicant. If we do this, I'd suggest that the November 13th meeting, if we get through the neg deck, we can perhaps then authorize a draft resolution of preliminary site development plan approval for the December meeting. Which, of course, if we do that, then I think a resolution like that would include a number of conditions, one of which could be hearing back from SHPO on their final determinations. But that's something that can be discussed later. Anyway, my point is, I think the board can and should probably go ahead with the EAF Part 2 and 3 and a draft neg deck at the November meeting. So I just wanted to put that forward before we go into any questions or further discussion from the board and see what you all think about that.
No, I would support that. I really don't have any additional comments at this point, but I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, so see what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, so let's go around and see if there are any other comments, and then we'll ask for some input from our consultants over at that end. Jody, any ideas?
Nope, she has nothing.
And Fred?
Nope.
Anyone on this side? Well, we'll go right to Dominic. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the board could certainly consider drafts at your next meeting. I see no reason why not to. I mean, the project has progressed significantly, and these items, you know, are going to run in parallel tracks potentially for the project, and I think the board. I'm always tend to be, or not always, but at least tend to be in favor of preparing drafts, because at least it gives you the option to visualize and see where things stand, rather than a mere discussion.
And, yeah, Liz, we actually, I'll disclose, we talked about this earlier, and to me, making sure there's appropriate wording, especially in the draft neg deck, that would reflect the fact that what is now going through the process of mitigation through SHPO is SHPO's responsibility as an involved agency. And so as long as we make clear and appropriate references in our draft neg deck, you know, we'll go through the EAF Part 2. Some things might be indicated as small or no impact. Some things might be indicated as moderate to large impacts, but going through the EAF Part 2 will help us make a determination of significance, and it definitely will help to have a draft neg deck available for the board's consideration. And I think, for me personally, if the proper wording is in there, I'd be, you know, quite willing to move ahead with a neg deck at that point. So if no one has any other questions or comments.
Mr. Chairman, I had two things to add.
All right.
Maybe three. I'll start with the first one and say thank you.
Okay.
Right, we do.
Oh, so maybe four.
Yeah, right, maybe it's four, right. No, I think we're right to three. So one is, as you were talking about, we would hope to have OPR feedback by the December meeting. But OPR is on a 30-day clock. So we submitted this, I remember my dates right, on September 23rd, and so they have to respond by October 23rd, which is, again, well in advance of your November meeting, right? So we will certainly have OPR determination before that meeting. So that's not something that by regulation is going to drag on. So so that was the second thing. The third thing is, previously you had suggested that if there aren't any real site plan issues, you might authorize the preparation of conditional approval documents for review the same evening as the neg deck.
No, that's not, no.
You said perhaps, right.
No, I didn't. What I suggested was, if we get through the draft neg deck, then the board might be able to authorize the preparation of a resolution for the December meeting.
That's what you said this evening, yes. That is what you said this evening.
Yeah.
Previously, you had said that there's the opportunity, perhaps, to do both at the same time. So I would offer that because...
Let me interrupt you, because what I may have said before, which I don't even remember saying, is not relevant to today, because I've now had an opportunity to go through the mitigation plans, and it's given me a level of comfort, but it still is up to SHPO to make their determinations. So that's why I'm saying we will need to be very clear in our neg deck what our responsibilities are as lead agency and what other agencies have responsibility for.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
The only thing I was going to offer was that Because your meeting is a week earlier this month, there's actually more time in this break between here and the next meeting. I was just suggesting that there's a little more time perhaps for the consultants at this particular break, but that was why I raised it, because we're meeting a week earlier this month, but I understand.
So I think we'll be kind of, well, I won't say pushing the limits, but getting through the EAF Part 2 and the draft neg deck are going to be quite an accomplishment for the board if we are able to do that, and that's what we'll try to do at the November meeting.
Thank you. Maybe there were 4. 2 thank yous, right?
So, let's see. Okay, so trying to see where we left off here. So we need a motion to authorize CPL to prepare draft EAF Parts 2 and 3 and a draft neg deck for the board's consideration at the November 13th meeting, including appropriate coordination with Dennis Lynch at MJ, of course. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Anthony moves it. Is there a second?
Second.
Jody seconds it.
Thanks, Bob.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that carries 6-0. And so we'll see where we end up in November.
Thanks. Thank you. Is there anything we need to submit to be on that agenda, or is this you
No,
know,
this will be,
right.
this will be, right, this will be.
That's why I asked, right? But, and again, I would like to have, again, further conversation with Liz, just to confirm some of the wording of the notes, but I assume that we're still authorized to have those communications, so,
Sure,
okay, great.
absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, so give me 1 second here. Okay. And the final item on the agenda tonight is Fishkill self-storage, site development plan and special use permit, board to review a draft finding statement, last revised on September 16, 2025, a draft resolution of determination, in this case a denial, and to consider adopting and authorizing the planning board chair to endorse said documents. So, at the September meeting, the board reviewed and discussed an earlier draft of the planning board's finding statement for the Fishkill self-storage facility. Several editorial changes were suggested and have been incorporated in draft number 4, which was circulated to the board. We can refer to those more specifically if anyone wants to, but those are on pages 9, 14, and 22. And then one correction, which is on page 23, was added with our attorney's assistance. Thank you, Dominic. The board had previously authorized the planning board attorney to prepare a draft resolution of denial, which was not ready for the September meeting, but has since been completed and circulated for the board's consideration at tonight's meeting. So before we get to the 2 documents, I wanted to just ask Dominic and Liz if there's anything else you want to add at this point regarding the seeker process or in advance of either of the 2 documents. But so first we'll go through the finding statement and then we'll get to the draft resolution.
Yes, procedurally, the board is holding your meeting tonight a week earlier than your normal meeting because of the timing of the seeker process as it relates to a filing of a final environmental impact statement and also when a seeker finding statement must be adopted. As we talked about, I believe, previously, the seeker FEIS has a minimum 10-day consideration period that must occur, where nothing can happen during that 10 days, so that anyone that receives a copy of that FEIS has the opportunity to review and potentially comment on it. But then also that the finding statement itself has to be adopted within 30 days. Holding the meeting tonight provides that you're within that window. And so that's why the meeting was moved to make sure that we comply with those regulatory timeframes.
Okay.
I have some other substantive things to say about the project in general, but I think that I would hold them off until we are ready to discuss the resolution of determination.
Okay, fine. And Liz, if you had anything, I know that again, the finding statement, which you worked on diligently over the past couple of months, was very much discussed and just basically had some minor corrections and editing. But if you have anything else you'd like to mention, we'll just go right to the finding
No, I appreciate
statement.
the board, reviewing it and taking the time to do that and comment on it, because it was an intense document. That's it.
All righty. So, any questions or comments from board members, starting with the draft number 4 of the finding statement?
No. No additional comments.
All right. Yeah, I was fine with the document we have in front of us. Well, if there are no questions, as lead agency in the environmental review of the Fishkill Self-Storage Facility, 1292 Route 9D, special use permit and site development plan, pursuant to Article 8, New York State Environmental Quality Review Act of the Environmental Conservation Law, and 6 NYCRR Part 617. Would someone like to make a motion to adopt the finding statement as reviewed by the board tonight, to authorize the chair to sign it and to circulate and file that document as required in the seeker regulations?
So moved.
Bob moves it. Is there a second?
Second.
Anthony seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So the finding statements is now adopted by a vote of 6-0. All right, so now that that has happened, Dominic, would you like to go through the draft resolution in as much or as little detail as you would like? Probably more than last this time.
Yes, well, I mean, this latest draft that you have is draft number 4. It's 11 pages long. And details, details at length, the procedural history of this project, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, having to, review it over the past 3 years, because that's how long the project's been pending. And there were a number, this resolution is not a typical resolution at all, in the sense that, in the normal course of the planning board's process, in the normal course, projects come before the board, they initially reflect the applicant's intention, and the board has an iterative process, right? You have an iterative process where, your concerns, compliance with code provisions, efforts to reduce and minimize environmental impacts are addressed throughout that process, and then eventually, projects receive approval, for the most part. But this project falls into a different category for at least 2 reasons. One is the fact that the town of Fishkill has this provision, 150-19B, that allows an application for a use that's not allowed in the zone. And this use, self-storage use, is not allowed in this particular zone. This is the RB zone, And the provision of the town code that allows this process says that there are several criteria, 5 of them actually, that have to be met by an applicant, and that if they meet those criteria, then, and only then, would the board be able to consider a special use permit and site development plan approval. So it's a multi-step process and essentially multiple hurdles that an applicant has to get past. The first thing that they have to do is they have to get past what I'll call the substantial similarity test, which is the one that's contained in 150-19B. And that if they get through that, then the board could treat it as any other application that also requires special use permit and site development plan approval. And in this case, also a certificate of appropriateness for historic structures. This particular application, you know, the use has been routinely, and even in the most recent correspondence, characterized by the applicant as being a low-intensity use. And that, of course, is a matter of opinion. You know, there is some viewpoints that you could understand where low intensity might be appropriate for a self-storage facility in the sense that there might not be peak traffic that are going there, and it's might not be, for instance, like a busy hotel, you know, which has people coming in and out on a daily basis. Self-storage, you know, I understand the point that the applicant has been trying to hammer home since the very beginning of this process, but that's not the test. The test is not whether or not it's less intense than the other uses that are allowed in that district. The test is whether or not it's substantially similar and compatible with the district. And in this case, you have a district with a significant number of residences there, as well as other uses that are allowed as commercial uses that are compatible with that residential use. And so the board, I think, has identified from the outset a number of concerns relating to whether or not this project would qualify for that substantial similarity determination. And that is why, in my opinion, you know, the project has taken 3 years to get to this point. And if you recall, you know, at the very outset, when the application was first made, the applicant actually made a request to the board, just make this determination now. Make this determination now, and this is 3 years ago, based only on the initial submission, and didn't even include an EAF at the very beginning. And said, make this determination, and then we'll continue on with the application. But the problem with that was, I mean, they were essentially segmenting the environmental review, but also the criteria that you have in your substantial similarity test. One of the important ones is whether or not the project's going to have an environmental impact on the area. So how do you make that determination without having, you know, the record in front of you? And so as a result, there has been, you know, a significant amount of time that has taken to get you here that were entirely warranted, in my opinion, as a result of the nature of this application on this particular site. And that's where we're at. So I can go through this resolution, you know, page by page if you would like. All of the whereases lay out every single one of the meetings that you had, what happened at those meetings, all of the processes that got you to this point. I think the important criteria is, as I said, the substantial similarity test, which is laid out on beginning on page 6, and this is where you make particular findings. And the first finding would be the fact that the proposed project does not meet the intent of and is not consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. I think that that has been demonstrated certainly throughout this process and as encapsulated in the seeker finding statement that you adopted that is prepared. And the reasons are set forth as well in this determination. The second criteria is whether or not the proposed project meets the stated purpose and legislative intent of the RB district. And this is also found in the negative, that it does not, because the RB district is intended to include residential uses in a non-residential zone with limited business, institutional, and recreational uses which are appropriate adjacent to the residential areas. Self-storage is an allowed use in the town in other districts, but it's typically allowed in more industrial or commercial areas, not adjacent to residential uses. So there's an elaboration regarding that. The next criteria is that the applicant did not avoid or minimize their adverse environmental impacts to the greatest extent, the maximum extent practicable. The criteria after that is that the planning board finds that the proposed project does not share characteristics in common with and would be of greater intensity, density, and generate more environmental impact, but including but not limited to having greater adverse impacts upon traffic, noise, air quality, parking, and other reasonably relevant attributes than those other uses that are allowed in the RB district. And so those are, I misspoke earlier, I said 5 criteria, but there's 4. And so I apologize for that. And the important point here is that these criteria under 150-19B, all of the criteria would have to be met. You would have to say that the project met each one of these criteria, and then in order to go on and be considered for a special use permit and for site development plan approval. And I think that the record is clear that the applicant has not met any of the criteria. So they fail that substantial similarity test. And once they fail the substantial similarity test, you're not denying the special use permit, you're not denying site development plan approval, you're saying they're not eligible for it. Because the only way that they're eligible is as if they had met all of those criteria. So it's a distinction. It is a denial. I mean, obviously, like it's going to feel like a denial to the applicant, I'm sure. It's in effect a denial, but it is the process that's laid out in the code. Is do they essentially qualify for a special use permit and site development plan approval only if they meet all of these criteria? If they don't meet those criteria, they don't qualify for a special use permit approval and site development plan, and the certificate of appropriateness as well. So that's how the resolution's been drafted. I'm happy to go through anything in particular that you have, but in the interest of, and this might be one of the earliest meetings that we have, although I'm sure the chairman, you may have other things to talk about, but that is your prerogative. But in any event, that is why this resolution is unlike any of the others that you have considered.
Now, the only thing I would mention is back on page 5 is just filling in the date that we adopted the finding statement, which was tonight, October 2, 2025. And then I was just going to ask whether board members first have any questions about it or any comments anyone would like to make.
Nope, no questions. Very thorough explanation. Thanks, Dominic.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
I will ask the applicant if you would like to ask any questions about it or make any comments. Okay. Liz, anything from you?
That's one for the record books.
Yeah. And Dennis, anything else?
No.
All right, so we are at a point of seeking a motion to approve and adopt the resolution of determination for Fishkill Self-Storage, 1292 Route 9D, as reviewed and revised tonight by the planning board, and to authorize the chair to sign it.
So moved.
All right, Anthony moves it.
Second.
Bob seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So the motion carries 6-0, and the resolution is adopted. Please sit down, thank you. So Dominic, just if you have any closing thoughts to wrap up this agenda item, closing out the application?
No, the only other thing I would do is provide an update to the board that there was this correspondence which requested an appeal of the fee. It's a seeker fee provision, if you recall,
Right.
that has been referred to the town supervisor, and a response is forthcoming on that. One of the important points of that provision in the seeker regulations is that the very fact that there's been an appeal should not delay or hold up the process, and in this case it did not. So the board continued with its work, even though there has been a request for a refund or reduction of the amount that's been paid to the town and to the town's consultants in particular for their work on this project.
All right, thank you for that update. And I would just like to thank the applicant for their efforts in pursuing this application, and also to thank board members for the diligent work that we all did in following the requirements of the seeker regulations and the Town of Fishkill Code and the overall development review process. So I think that's about it for that item and for the agenda tonight, unless anyone has any other things you want to talk about. We have so much time left.
How's it going?
Great. Or we could try to tune in to see what the Yankees are up to.
0-0
Oh,
in the fourth.
okay. Thanks for the update, Fred.
Somebody's on top of that.
So, thank you, everybody out there. The next planning board meeting is Thursday, November 13th, 2025. The submission deadline is Wednesday, October 29th at 2:30 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Kevin moves it and Bob seconds it. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We are done. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.